Everybody. My name is Sarah. I'm just confirming, can everybody see and hear me? Yeah? Okay, thanks. I am a Brazilian developer living in Brazil currently. I am a senior developer and team lead at Talbot. And I've been working with Rails Ruby on Rails for like in total for I think 4 years now, but I have worked with other languages as well, like Python, Java, JavaScript as well. And this is my first time talking in English in a meetup. I'm not a native speaker, so please bear with me. I'm gonna do my best. Okay, so that's 1:30 my time, so I'm gonna strive to wrap this up in 15 minutes. All right, so the theme of my talk is my favorite Ruby style guidelines lately. They have been my favorite lately just because they, when I was checking out the Ruby style guide website, I just like scrolling. I saw that there were some things that I didn't understand deeply. And so I felt drawn to, okay, let me dive into this and understand why the reasoning behind those guidelines. So these are gonna be my sources today, the rubystyle.guide website and the Thoughtbot Guides repo. If you don't know about it and you code in Ruby, you may wanna check it out. I think it's very helpful. And the Thoughtbot guides, they cover a lot of aspects of working together and programming well, programming style, but I'm gonna focus here on the Ruby section. And yeah, let's start. So why guidelines? Why bother following guidelines? Because code is read much more often than it's written. And guidelines from Thoughtbot guides and Ruby style, they provide us, they help us to improve the readability of our code, help us make it consistent across the wide spectrum of Ruby code. And they are also meant to reflect real-world usage of Ruby instead of a random IDO. So my first guideline I want to share with you, very basic, very simple, just to get started, but that's going to help you like just not have to think about a lot of other guidelines, is using standard. This is from the Thoughtbot guides. Standard is a linter and formatter built on Rubocop and provides an unconfigurable configuration for our styling. To get started with standard, you can generate a to-do. Usually we work with repositories with code bases that already exist and already do not follow any guidelines. So you can just, after installing standard, you can generate a to-do, and that's gonna like generate a file listing all the violations there is in your code base. There are new code base, and so that's going to be much easier for you to like not introduce new violations, and at the same time not have to worry to fix everything before moving ahead and improving step by step. So if you use GitHub and GitHub Actions, you can add standard RB to your workflow, and standard will run on your every PR, guaranteeing that we are not introducing violations. Okay, so first things first, moving on. Next, the next guideline is about preferring nested classes and module definitions over the shorthand version. So what does that mean? Oh, and this is from the Thoughtbot guides. So first, on the left, it's the nested module and class definitions. So you define module A, class B, and define your body. And on the right, we see the shorthand version. So why should we prefer the nested version on the left? because one of the reasons I think most important that may bite you if you don't follow this guideline is constant lookup. So I have an example here. We have a code where we are defining a module A, for instance, and inside the module A, we define a constant. And then if we define a second module, module B, we say A column B, and define a method called test, and we try to call this test method. Right, can you see my pointer? Yeah, cool. Under there, you see that we are going to have a name error saying initialize constant A, B constant. So you may run across this and say, what is happening here? I don't know. But if you define a nested version, let's say module A, module C, and then define your test method and call your constant, this test method is going to return your constant. And then here you're going to have your expected behavior. If anybody has seen that error, please let me know in the chat. So there is one other reason about C tags or something, but I don't fully understand what C tags are, but I'm going to dive into this later. Not here in the talk, just like for my own learning. Okay, so this is the second guideline. Let's move on to the third about flow of control. If I didn't explain things very well, please feel free to ask questions at the end. So this guideline is about not using for unless you know exactly why. So let's give an example here. If we defined an array here and we iterate over it with the for, we will see that the elements defined inside that for are going to be accessible outside the for loop. And that's not what we want. Usually, of course, there may be a use case for that, but we usually expect, especially if you're coming from other languages, that the items we are iterating inside the for, we expect them to be defined only under the scope of the for loop. So how can we avoid that? We can use for instance, each, and then the element item is not going to be defined outside of our each call. Cool. Much better. So moving forward to the next one about block, procs, and lambdas. We should use the proc call shorthand when the call method is the only operation of a block. So what does that mean? This one is not so complex or interesting. I just put it here because I think I remember when I first learned about these like 6 years ago. I found it so beautiful, like so simple, so elegant, and it was like the time when I fell in love with Ruby. So we have here an array and we are mapping with it, and instead of defining calling name.upcase, we can just do straight a proc call shorthand with I don't know the name of this symbol in English, and a colon, and then you call the method you want to call. Cool, much better, at least for me. And moving on, next we have defining constants within a block. I have been beaten by that before too. So these guidelines mentions that the block scope does not isolate or namespace our constants in any way. So if you're writing, for instance, a rake task, if you are using rake in a Rails application, for instance, and you defined a task, let's say inviting WMB members to the meetup, and we define an array called members emails. These members email constant is gonna be available outside of our blog. So that may be an issue for you if you have like another task. Let's say we want to define members email again, we're gonna have a problem because these two constants exist in the same. They may like crash. So instead of using defining a constant inside of task, we can define the constant outside of it, or we can just define a variable or a method. So this much better. All right, so we have a few minutes, and let's move on to the next one. Avoiding monkey patching. This is from Daba Guides. And I haven't seen monkey patching in my last projects, thankfully. And what it is monkey patching, if you don't know about it, it is a technique about modifying or extending built-in classes and methods at runtime. So let's say that we wanna have a new behavior for the string class. That's, I think, a very common example on monkey patching. Let's say that we wanna add a method to the string class called, let's say, a new way of capitalizing things, like okay, I'm not gonna have an example here right under in my head, but okay, let's say we wanna modify or extend the string class from the Ruby built-in classes. So this looks convenient at first, but this can lead to numerous issues and make code maintenance challenging, just because it can lead to conflicts, unexpected behaviors, and difficult to debug errors. So we may introduce an unintentional conflicts when, like, you monkey patch the string class and then you saw a third-party library that also modifies it and introduce a different behavior for the method you introduce. And also, when we want to debug something, we have to look for functionality scattered across various files. So instead of monkey patching, we can prefer subclassing and encapsulation for adding new features, and it provides a more organized and predictable approach to extending functionalities in our Ruby apps. And that was it. Thank you. I'm available on LinkedIn. Please do friend me there. I don't know if it's called friend. Connect with me there. I'll be glad to continue to be connected to all of you. Thank you. Questions?